Now we're going to be going into it. I don't know if I want to turn harder than that. Oh, this
I got that.
Holy shit.
Thank God.
Man, honey, I'm sorry to get you soaked there, but I'm so excited about this episode, I kind of had to push the shot a little bit. This review is going to be incredible. This is such an interesting vessel called the Axopar 37 Cross Cabin. We're going to cover things nobody's covered yet, like what is an Axopar really, and how does it actually handle on the water? Why is it shaped the way it is, and is it truly cutting edge? Yeah, pun intended. When I first started thinking about buying an Axopar, I went online to look for review videos. And while there's a ton of review videos on the functionality of the boat, there's very few videos that actually dive in deep to the capability of the boat. Like how does it handle in rough seas from a head sea to a following sea, and how do you actually make the boat perform its best? And as pretty seasoned captains who have owned quite a few boats, our goal in this review is to get technical, put it all together, form versus function, and let you know, in our opinion, if this boat is worth all the hype. Well, there's a reason everybody talks about function for this boat. This is one of the most functional boats you'll ever buy. For the size, it has 2 cabins, it's fully enclosed, and it is awesome just for those reasons. And because of this awesome functionality, my wife and I decided to take this boat on a 600-mile journey from Maine all the way down to Connecticut, with some of New England's coolest and most famous destination stops on the way, like Martha's Vineyard, Block Island, and Gloucester. And we're going to use this trip to kind of test the functionality and give it a full review. So we ended up waking up early and leaving at sunrise, and it was a beautiful start. But soon it blew up to about 2s to 3s, and our first stop was 50 miles down the coast at the famed Isles of Shoals. We're coming down here in what, 3-footers, right by the buoy, and we learned a lot with this boat. We were able to trim down the motors and then lower the trim tabs too, and what a difference that made. We just used the trim tabs and we tucked that bow right in uncomfortably. It feels like you're going downhill, but what a difference it makes. This is a wave piercing bow, nice into the wave, and it makes one hell of a difference. And after a quick visit to the Isles of Shoals, we are southbound to Gloucester in the Annisquam River. With the side to wind on this part of the trip, the feature that Sarah and I enjoyed the most was the simplest feature. It was a door. It was an enclosure. Being used to a center console, sometimes it's the simple things that give you the most comfort. Well, welcome to Gloucester, honey.
Thanks.
This is Gloucester, Massachusetts, man. A lot of fishing history in Gloucester. We rolled in from the north side. This is the north entrance. Over here, that's Gloucester. It's an island. It's a big island connected by a couple of bridges. And then over there, that's mainland Massachusetts. So the Axopar is such a unique hull design. It's so different than your typical center console with a big Carolina flare that you really kind of have to modify your operation of it to get the best performance out of it. And it comes down to how you trim it. These are the trim tabs. And it comes down to how you trim your motors. If you do it right, this thing has an amazing ride. And it's really amazing on a following sea. This is Gloucester Sandbar. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I haven't been down here when it's this packed. It's a little bit like Florida. Beautiful spot. Best spot in the river. Thank you. All right, so we show up here where we're at a marina in Gloucester. This place is awesome. How are we getting home? We're not sure how we get home.
129.
So literally, Sarah has
I feel right at home.
She has the throwable radio because we're going to call 72 and we're going to get a taxi. We're going to get a water taxi back here. So after a really cool night out to eat in Gloucester at a place called The Stones, it's time to get back to the dock and talk about what this boat looks like at night and its true dockside overnight sleeper functionality. From Key West all the way to Maine, I've seen a lot of lit up boats at night, and I must say, the Axopar is on par with some of the best. I couldn't help myself. And I wonder why there's so much condensation on those windows. We'll get to that awesomeness in a second. All right, get your minds out of the gutters, guys. It has to do with the AC. This is cool. Just nice. We have an AC cabin. Only 71, but we're bringing that down right now. We just got here. Do you want to go to a bar right now and drink?
Nope.
I don't either.
I want to go to the Battlestar bar.
We're in the Battlestar bar. What makes this boat so special? Well, to tell you the truth, it's a ton of different features. One is the cabin, one is the doors, one is the enclosure, one is the dual cabins, but also the super cold AC. This boat has 3 units on it, and it will get this thing down to just above freezing, I feel.
Freaking cold. We're gonna have to scrape the ice off the window here.
And with an enclosed boat, AC is necessary. It gave us a fantastic night's sleep and made us feel like we were in our own little home. It's pretty awesome. Another really simple feature that you see every now and again on center consoles is this little swim deck that sits outside the motors at the stern but goes beyond the outboards. Axopar nailed it with this. It is such a fantastic feature that allows you to get to the water and do some pretty cool things like train our new golden retriever puppy named Graham off the back of the Axopar safely at the Marina. And while this platform's not revolutionary, it's small functional things like this that make all the difference in the world. Good boy, God. This happens to be one of my most memorable times on the trip. Shivering. All right, now let's get moving here. If you're new to the channel, that's how we do things. We tell stories, even if it's a review. That's how we live. Because without emotion, there's simply no reason to. Another unique feature with this boat that I love, which is more of a form versus function thing, is the low bow deck and gunnel. These days, it seems like it's all about who's got the bigger Carolina flare, which puts your bow deck and gunnel really far out of the water, which might be necessary to stay dry in an open helm, but it's not necessary with a full cabin. And this really opens up the possibilities for a very capable, unique wave-piercing design. In the end, the sharp entry hull design ends up dropping the full cross-section of the boat, making it more aerodynamic, faster, and more fuel efficient. But it also puts you closer to Mother Nature, and maybe experiences like this. It's almost like you could touch them around. What is that, Yukon? Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. What is that? What is that? The Axopar 37 cross cabin actually has so many features, like the folding dining table, the swivel captain's chairs, and even this powered retractable roof that I have yet to see leak a single drop of water. That we're simply not going to get to them all in this review. I'll leave that up to the other guys at the boat show docks. In our mission to keep things real and give you guys the truth, we do want to touch upon the very small list of negative things that we have found. And while the Axopar is truly an amazing vessel in many ways, no boat's perfect, and we would love to see these things fixed for future models. So my biggest issue with this boat is Axopar decided to put in the lowest grade Simrad for electronics that you could possibly buy. Now I know that has to do with the price point for this boat, but at the end of the day, the glitchiness and the slow response of these Simrads takes away from the funness of this boat and its true full capability. If I were Axopar, I would just make sure all future models had a decent Garmin or even a decent Simrad, but not one that had the processing power of something from the 1980s. Just takes away from the greatness of the boat too much, and for what? It's worth it to spend a little bit more money and make sure the captains are safe and happy with the electronics. Now once these Simrads have gone through their 1-hour boot process, they seem to be good for the rest of the day. So Sarah and I now, we just turn them on early, about an hour before we leave, to make sure when we're going down river or back into the ocean, that we have current maps that aren't glitchy and the system's not going to just shut off and reboot on its own, which it loves to do when you first boot it up. Now I know we're going to have a bunch of Simrad fans out there going, well, you didn't have it set up right or it wasn't correctly updated, but I installed all the updates and we still had these problems persist. I really believe it has more to do with the price point of these chart plotters and that the processing power is just not there. Alright, my second big issue with the Axopar, and it's pretty trivial, which goes to say a lot, are the ridiculously small and shallow cup holders. Come on now, these guys in Europe, do they not have any drinks that are bigger than 12 ounces? It's super trivial, but pretty annoying. Guys, if you're going to sell a boat on the American market, it should probably have American-sized cup holders. We did end up improvising a little bit using these cubby holes, but at the end of the day, it still makes a mess. So we bought some sea suckers. They're a fix for now, but it's certainly not the integrated solution that it should be. Lastly, the third thing I don't like about this Axopar is the rear seat and how it folds up and locks to the wall. The latch is just really hard to get to, even if you have small hands, and it makes it difficult to operate. So a redesign on that is needed. So after brainstorming, me and my wife could only come up with 3 negative things about the Axopar. 2 of them are pretty insignificant and easy to fix, and the last one, yeah, you just simply don't equip lower quality electronics on a higher quality boat. It's time for us to push on to true capability, performance, and handling, and what nobody else seems to be talking about. How does the Axopar handle in all kinds of seas, and what are its performance characteristics?
Let's turn this thing all the way down. We're going to be going into it. I don't know if I want to turn harder than that. Oh, wow. Thank God. What a great ride this is, honey.
All right, guys, here it is as simple as I can make it. Now, I've owned and operated a lot of high-performance boats in my past, from high-performance cats to high-performance V-hulls. And I have to say the Axopar 37 is the best handling V-hull that I've ever operated in my life for its size and horsepower. And they've done such a good job on it, it's not even really a competition. For its size and speed, the Axopar 37 is one of my most fun boats to drive. It cuts on a dime and it tilts hard to the inside, makes you feel really secure in the turn, and it doesn't slide out. It really grips like it's on rails. It acts almost like a cat. That's how good it is. You also don't scrub a lot of speed in these high-speed turns, which makes it even more fun. The Axopar 37 in my book gets a 10 out of 10 for handling. I've simply never seen anything like it for its size and horsepower. And when we look back at the GPS, I thought it was pretty cool that we actually made perfect circles. And we didn't even try, we just pinned the motors and went hard to port, and the boat did the rest. Being a commercial fisherman for a good part of my life back when I was a kid, I do respect those lobster buoys quite a bit. No lobster buoys were hurt in the shooting of this film. And now it's time to turn our attention to the sea state capabilities of the Axopar, which was actually my favorite part to test. Being on a jet ski, I'm not so sure it was Sarah's though. I married up 10,000 levels. Thank you, honey, for being such a good sport. I love you. And this is where we're going to actually differ from most videos. We're going to get technical, you guys, and we're going to talk about how I was able to get the Axopar 37 to perform to its highest potential. And of course, this didn't come overnight. It took some experimentation. But once you learn how to operate the boat, it's a pretty impressive vessel. Let's check it out. Okay, so what makes an Axopar different? Why is the hull shaped like that? Well, it's pretty simple. The hull's shaped like that for a couple of reasons: speed, stability, and efficiency. And this is the main reason that Axopar can make a 37-foot long, 11-foot 3 inches wide vessel that does 60 miles an hour with just dual 300s. But on the flip side, with a shallow dead rise, you need a sharp entry bow to make the ride smoother in rough water. But here's the catch: you're not going to have that smooth ride if you don't trim your motors all the way down and force that knife's edge to pierce the water before the back of your boat does. And this is a perfect example. I'm in a following sea which is about 3 to 4 feet, but it's standing because it's the outlet of the Saco River, meeting the head wall of wind. So to navigate this following sea, I'm going to trim my motors all the way down. They're going to be tucked all the way in. With my motor trims at 0, I'm going to keep my trim tabs all the way up because it's a following sea. So, motors down, trim tabs up. Now there's one major problem with the sharp entry bow that you have to fix if you're going to have a good seaworthy boat. And that is, you're going to take water over the bow. So number one, you want to have an enclosed helm. That's pretty watertight. Number two, you're going to want to have close to an open stern or some pretty big scuppers to let all the water rush out the back when you do have a steep and deep wave-piercing moment. And number three, you're going to need some aggressive chines and a pretty unique flared bow design to help reduce the amount of water that you may take over on those wave-piercing moments. And fortunately for Axopar, they knew these things and they did a masterful job of engineering through these challenges. Okay, up next, a head sea. What do we do if we're going straight into it? But first, a little comic relief by a swan we affectionately call Terminator. This sucker wants to eat my toe.
All he does is hiss.
He is kind of ugly. He is kind of mean, huh? I think he wants to nibble that little thing. What a dink. Alright, where were we? Yes, Axopar, 37 cross cabin, head sea. Going into it. For the most part, going into it, all you're going to do is just tuck your motors. However, when it's steep and deep, you're going to want to use your trim tabs. You're going to want to bring those all the way down so it pushes your bow down even further. And that will make your sharp entry bow pierce like a knife for the rest of the boat. Notice how the windshield is fairly dry. And this was one of the biggest surprises for me with the Axopar. Having a sharp entry bow, I thought the windshield was always going to be wet. But it's really not. And when it does get wet, who cares? Put the windshield wipers on. Because it's actually a pretty cool feeling to pierce a wave like that. Have it hit the windshield and fly off the back of the deck. You look at your wife, you say, WTF, we're still dry? We're still hauling ass? This is what boating should be like. And so to recap, head sea, steep and deep, Trim the motors down to 0 and put your trim tabs all the way down. Stuff the bow. The top deck might get wet, but you will not. As a quick disclaimer, keep in mind that this is how I found the boat to operate best. Each boat's a little different, and so are the sea states. Alright, if you've been married long enough, you have those moments where you just need to apologize. You kind of took it too far, and this is one of them. My wife was kindly filming me after a full day of work in 3 to 4 foot seas on a jet ski, and I might have drenched her. And it's cold, it's Maine. Sorry, honey, please forgive me. This is one of those times you stuff your pride and you just say, I'm really sorry, honey.
Oh my god, that is so cold!
I'm sorry, honey. I did not mean to.
iPhone is soaked. Oh, I got water all the way into my boots.
Thank God my wife is such a good sport.
I really don't.
Alright, and lastly with the Axopar 37C capabilities, we have side 2, or in the trough, and diagonals. In a direct side 2 in the trough, you just want to lower your trim. Accordingly, it handles these seas very, very well. Depending on how big the seas are, you can usually go full speed. It is actually a very stable platform in the trough. Now, because it's a 20-degree dead rise, it's fairly shallow, the diagonals can be a little bit more tricky. You definitely want to lower the trim and possibly the trim tabs because you will occasionally get that slapping or pounding from that random diagonal wave. There's not much you can do about it. It took us a while to get on camera, but this is what it might look like when your trim isn't set correctly in a diagonal sea.
I got that.
But because the boat is so predictable in all these sea states, with a little bit of time behind the helm, you'll quickly learn what trim settings you need to perform to manage these seas smoothly and safely. Keep in mind that all this trim setting is really for seas that are a bit more challenging and over 2 feet. Anything under that, you're going to just trim it up a little bit and let that stepped hull be super efficient and smooth for you. For having a sharp entry bow, you would think that this thing would dart on some diagonal waves like wakes, but in all reality, it actually doesn't. It tracks really, really well. And as I said before, it's very predictable. So to sum up the Axopar 37 cross cabin sea state capability, the Howe2Live grade when comparing this boat to other boats of similar size and power is an A- in a head sea when properly trimmed. It gets an A in the trough in crossing wakes, we give it a B+ in all diagonal seas, and we give it an A+ in a following sea. I have never actually seen a boat of this size and power handling a following sea as well as this Axopar. To get anywhere near the capability of this boat in a following sea, you're going to have to be into the 40-foot range. And that's just the truth of it. And finally, as that last disclaimer, please understand these are only my recommendations how I found the boat to handle best in 3 to 4 foot steep seas. Any seas larger than that, like you might see at haul over, you're going to have a much different technique. Speeds are going to be slower because you could have, and you probably will have, major wave piercings. So you want to just get to know your boat, learn your boat in different seas, have a great time, be safe, and good luck.
What do you think, Robbie? This thing's awesome.
Truthfully, there's so much goodness in this boat, it's really hard to even describe. I'll just put it to you this way. I'll probably never have a center console in Maine again. It truly is the perfect boat for a cold weather New England, and the value of what you can get out of it, it's just in a league of its own right now. I freaking love this boat. I love this boat. It's raining, it's pouring out, thunderstorming. And I'm so cozy in here with the door cracked, a little bit of a breeze coming through. It's just not used to this. Hear that? Well, I really hope you guys have enjoyed this story, this review of the Axopar, even if you guys aren't into boating. For me and Sarah, it's about living today like it's your last day on Earth. So with that, we'll let you guys go with our theme song, Chasing Stars. Until next time, boat safe, boat happy, over and out.
And leave our work undone. Gonna move these mountains one by one.
We're cool out tonight.
With new frontiers, our spirit never swayed. We faced our fears. watch the shadows fade. Our vision's clear, focus is locked on tight. Invincible, you can't knock us. Untouchable, you can't stop us. We chase the stars, gonna reach out till they're in our grasp. Impossible, but it's nothing. Unstoppable, we ain't bluffing. We've come this far and there ain't no way we're backing down. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We are untouchable. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We never fade, we never fall. 'Cause we'll be the last one standing. No chance that we'll be crash landing. And we're on fire as they all go down in flames. And still the burning remains.
I'm always happy to have 10 fingers and not Julio Iglesias myself.
So yes, I'm glad you have all your fingers, honey.
I always catch with my left hand.
Gonna move these mountains.